Coping with COVID, updates on the pandemic and information to help you thrive and survive COVID-19. It's brought to you by the South Carolina Department of Health and Environmental Control. Visit scdheck.gov for an updated list of testing sites and important information on how to protect yourself, your family, and friends from the coronavirus. SCDHEC, healthy people, healthy communities. In it together and the South Carolina Diabetes Advisory Council, presenting Wellness Wednesday every Wednesday on Coping with COVID. The City of Columbia Office of Business Opportunities, helping to meet the needs of small, minority, and women-owned businesses in the City of Columbia. Log on to columbiasc.net/OBO. Agape Counseling and Training Services. Call 803-779-2777 for licensed professionals of counselors and social workers helping families, engaged and married couples, and individuals of all ages gain an understanding of all aspects of their lives. If you're having a challenge coping with COVID, contact Agape Counseling and Training Services at agapects.com. And Palmetto Media Connections, connecting media and communities together. Coping with COVID, brought to you by SCDHEC. In it together, the Diabetes Advisory Council, the City of Columbia Office of Business Opportunities, Agape Counseling and Training Center, and Palmetto Media Connections.
Coping with COVID with Tre Tailor.
Fight the spread and take a stand against coronavirus. Wear a mask in public. Stay at least 6 feet apart from others. And get tested. Join us and fight the spread. Visit scdheck.gov/COVID-19.
Good Friday afternoon. I'm Tre Tailor on Coping with COVID, updates on the pandemic and information to help you thrive and survive COVID-19. As you saw, it's brought to you by SCDHEC, the City of Columbia Office of Business Opportunities. Also, Agape Counseling and Training Center. Listen, if you're having a challenge coping with COVID, please contact the folks at Agape Counseling and Training Center. Coping with COVID is also brought to you by In It Together SC, the South Carolina Diabetes Advisory Council. They sponsor Wellness Wednesday every Wednesday here on Coping with COVID. We're also sponsored by Javis Tax Services, celebrating 20 years of providing financial services to South Carolina. And our two new sponsors, the Comet Bus System, featuring Don't Forget to Get Your Shot. They're giving free rides to get your vaccination, your COVID vaccination. So don't miss your shot. Catch the Comet to get your vaccine. Also, Computers Unique. Contact Daniel in the Jet Square Mall in Columbia, South Carolina for fast, reliable, and professional sales and services of your computer or laptop. We're also brought to you by Palmetto Media Connections. Well, in 2021, there are people, particularly in the Black and Brown communities, that still don't have access to clean, safe drinking water. And if you think it's just a one-time, one-city thing, these two ladies will tell you that you are incorrect. Zakiya Summers is a Jackson, Mississippi House of Representatives, and she's going to share with us the issues that she's been going through in Jackson, Mississippi. Zakiya, thank you so much for joining us today. I appreciate you.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And Deanna Millerberry, she joined us a couple of months ago when she was running for mayor of Denmark. She's still there working in that community. If you heard her story before, you know that she's been working in that city, Denmark, for clean, safe drinking water for years. And she's going to share her story today. I really wanted to get these two ladies together because they have similar challenges. And I wanted to see if we could create some synergy between the two to see if they could help each other out. So I'm looking forward to not only this conversation, Zakiya and Deanna, but for whatever may happen after this conversation is over. That's coming up next with Deanna Millerberry and Zakiya Summers next on Coping with COVID. But first, your COVID community public service announcements. SCDHEC has your most up-to-date listing of times, dates, and location for COVID testing, flu testing, and also COVID vaccines in South Carolina. Visit scdheck.gov for more information. Now, you can also visit gogettested.com in 3 states. You can log on, go online, make your appointment, and get tested. And not only that, you can get your results. And they do the mouth swab, not the nasal, in 48 hours. Now, also, the DHEC Care Line is open and available for info, testing, transportation, and for organizing a COVID screening in your community. Now, speaking of transportation, if you or someone you know is unable to move around, in Richland and Clarendon counties, they do in-home COVID testing. So if you need a paramedic to come in the home and do a COVID test, contact 911 and get that information. Also, several areas in South Carolina are doing COVID vaccinations. Lexington Medical Center is accepting appointments for COVID vaccines. The VA, if you are a veteran, they're handling all veteran COVID vaccinations. Also, Kroger pharmacies are offering the COVID vaccine. CVS pharmacies also offering the COVID vaccine. In Target stores, CVS pharmacies are offering the COVID vaccine. All of this information actually will be scrolling at the bottom of the screen throughout the show. So if you need more information, please, please, please get it and post and share it. Now, as I just told you, the Comet bus system is doing an initiative where you can ride the Comet bus for free to get your vaccination. So don't miss your shot. Check out the Comet bus system to get your COVID vaccination. Now, the NAACP is launched their housing assistance program. If you or someone you know needs help with their mortgage or their rent, please contact them, and that Housing Navigator program will point them in the right direction. Also, the South Carolina Bar Association and SC Legal Services have collaborated for a toll-free number for information about services that you may need if you need to pay your rent or mortgage. And the City of Columbia's 6-month payment plan for water bills is still going on. Those folks who need it, not only will they stretch your payment out for 6 months, you can also get up to 98% paid for your water bill. Now, the Central Carolina Community Foundation, now their scholarships I've been telling you about several months, they are closed, but they still have grants available for nonprofit organizations. So if you have a nonprofit organization and you need some funding, they do have grants available. Rashonda Pratt has an excellent YouTube channel if you need help getting your virtual work or school on. Please contact her or definitely subscribe to her YouTube channel. And AC open enrollment, we know all about that. Rosalind Goodwin with the South Carolina Hospital Association talked to us a couple of weeks ago. There are free resources available. You see the number to call. You can also visit signupsc.org, and you can also go to healthcare.gov and apply, see if you qualify for a subsidy. Most people do, and get you some health care because you can get it now. Now, if you are in need of a job, Rapid Reliable Testing has job openings. Go to rrtesting.com for more information. You see the number to also call. They've got jobs available, not only medical professionals, but also administrative. It's Women's History Month, and the WNBA has a great campaign, a Women's History Month t-shirt. You can see it right there on the screen. The portion of the proceeds go to the National Council of Negro Women. And Black Lives Matter are offering scholarships. They've got $3 million that they are going to grant to African Americans that are in need due to the pandemic, and they're offering in $1,000 scholarships. They are particularly looking at parents, caregivers, transgender folks, and ex-offenders. So apply for that and from the information you see on the screen. Finally, AKA Day at the State House is Monday. They're having a public forum. Our state epidemiologist, as you can see, Linda Bell will be there. Also Vince Ford with Prisma Health and several other folks. I'm honored to be moderating that public forum. That's Monday evening at 7 o'clock. Do like me, get your babies, a babysitter, and find out the things that we need to know about the vaccine. The vaccine is so very important. And I know that there is a lot of trepidation, particularly in Black and Brown communities, but we still need to at least find out what's going on. So this will be a great opportunity for you to get the information you need Monday night at 7 o'clock. I'm Tre Tailor, and you're watching Coping with COVID, updates on the pandemic and information to help you thrive and survive COVID-19. Hey, don't forget, we are streaming live on Facebook. The TailorMade production page is the home of Coping with COVID. Please go over there and hit like and share so we can get this message to the masses. We also are streaming live on YouTube. Want to thank everybody for joining us via YouTube. Please don't forget to hit the subscribe button. We also have a presence on Instagram and Facebook, and we would love to see you there also. Hey, don't forget to post and share this information out so we can get the message to the masses. Deshauna Chanel says, hey, Tre, how are you? Hey, Deshauna, I emailed you about being on the show. I wonder if you got my email because I want to tell your story. Also, Anita Aiken says, good afternoon. Want to say hi to everybody watching. Please post and share this information out because this is something that sounds like doesn't happen. You know, you just think in 2021, is no way in the world folks don't have clean drinking water. And I think those of us who do take it for granted that some folks don't. So today we're going to talk with Zakiya Summers. She is a House of Representative with Jackson, Mississippi. She is a servant leader and civil rights activist. And like I said, she's serving her first term as Mississippi State Representative for House District 68. She's a member of Zeta Phi Beta sorority, where she serves as her chapter's social action chair and the W.K. Kellogg Foundation Community Leadership Network. Zakiya owns a public relations consulting and event planning company, Lady Godiva Productions, and was selected as one of the top 50 businesswomen in the state of Mississippi in 2018. She received her BA in broadcast journalism from the University of Mississippi, Columbia. And she and her husband have 3 sons and live in West Jackson. Zakiya, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm so thankful that Anita Aiken connected us, because I just don't think I knew. I mean, I know Deanna Berry's story. We're going to talk to Deanna a little bit later. And of course, we know about the highly publicized water crisis, several years ago. But when she told me that they're having this problem in Jackson, Mississippi, I was like, say what? What's going on?
Right.
First of all, welcome, but what's going on?
Well, thank you so much for having me. And also want to say thank you to Anita, who connected us. I was actually connected to Anita through a pastor in Louisiana,
Wow.
who is a friend to my hairdresser. And had seen the national news about what was happening here in the city of Jackson and our water crisis. And so that's how all of this came about. So thanks again for having me. And I love your logo.
Oh, thank you. As a PR
it's
person.
So cute. Yeah, I love the branding. It's perfect.
Thank you.
And so, back in February, we were hit with a history-making winter storm. And, we're in Mississippi, so, we rarely get snow.
Right.
Right. So therefore we don't have the equipment and the resources, readily available to be able to respond to what we had experienced. And we're talking about, a whole week of snow and ice.
Wow.
Not being able to travel, schools closed, not being able to get to work. Even in the legislature, we had to turn to Zoom for all of our convenings because it was just that bad. And so as a result of the winter storm, per usual, whenever we have bad weather like that, our water system broke down. And in 2021, you just don't think that could even be an issue in the United States. I mean,
exactly.
Yeah, it was almost like we were in a third world country, because people did not have access to water.
So let me back up, Zakiya, because you said that typically when you already knew that there was an issue with the system.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Oh, yes. We've been having issues with our water system for decades. This is not a new issue. In fact, we had our lieutenant governor did an interview here recently and talked about the lack of maintenance for a number of years. And, that's not due to the fact that we don't know that the issues exist. We're clear about that. That what is really based in is a disinvestment, into our city coffers and supporting the city of Jackson. Wow. And, our city is a predominantly Black city. We're 80% African American.
Wow.
In the city of Jackson. The state of Mississippi has about a 38% Black population. So we are an urban city.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And we have had leadership over the years that have, brought this issue to the forefront. But there has been almost just put on the back burner continuously. It's been ignored for so long. And, unfortunately, and this is, I'm sure, happening in many urban areas where we've seen, a decrease in our population. And so when we don't have people in households that can, pay water bills and contribute to our city coffers, then, that means that we don't have enough resources to be able to fix the issue.
So
and
is that the so is that the problem, Zakiya? Because population is declining, you don't have people paying into the system, so theoretically there's not enough funding to take care of the system?
Yeah, that's part of the problem. I mean, that's not the only piece to this equation. And we understand what plays into that decrease in population in an urban city. We have white flight, we have black flight, we have, we have businesses that leave the city and go to the suburbs.
But here's the thing, and listen, I'm a broadcaster. I'm not a politician, or I'm not smart like that. You know what I mean? So I'm probably asking a question that somebody would say, of course not. But if it's one person in the city, you should make sure, the powers that be, the city officials should make sure that the place is livable.
It's certainly a quality of life issue. And, our mayors over the years, as well as our city council, they have continued to advocate for assistance for this issue. And
so is it from the state?
From the state, as well as from the federal government.
Wow.
Our system has gotten so bad that we're unfortunately under a consent decree. And so, we have the EPA that's wrapped up in this as well. And so there are just a lot of pieces to this puzzle that contribute to where we are now.
Right. We're talking to Zakiya Summers, state representative from Jackson, Mississippi, and they've got a water crisis there. They don't have clean and safe drinking water in 2021. So when you say you can't drink the water, I guess, can you bathe in the water?
At this point, you can. Now, we've just gone through about 4 weeks of not being able to consume the water whatsoever, which means that it wasn't safe enough to even brush your teeth with.
Wow. Yeah. Wow.
Right now, the city is still under a boil water notice because we're still working to get the pressure up in some areas of the city. But for about 3 weeks, for a good bit of the city, you couldn't cook with the water. You didn't have enough water to wash clothes. I mean,
Wow.
you just never realize how important
water is.
Yes. Exactly.
Yes.
Until you don't have it, you don't have access to it.
I'm sitting up here thinking, when you said you can't wash your clothes, I immediately thought about those 3 loads of clothes that I have in my bathroom.
It's real. I mean, we're a college town as well. We have several universities and colleges and community colleges in the city of Jackson. And those students, have not been able to wash their clothes. I mean, we're fortunate to have Deion Sanders as our football coach at Jackson State University. But I even heard where he was putting in calls just to get clean underwear for his team.
So Zakiya, all right. So I want to say hi to Barbara Bowman. She's watching. Thank you, Barbara, so much. Daniel Lake says you are smart, Trey. I'm not smart like that. Thank you, Danielle. Listen, I know what I know. I know what I know, girl. Listen, I know what I know. Anita Aiken says, oh my, things we take for granted until we don't have it. You are absolutely right, Anita. Zakiya Summers is a Jackson, Mississippi House of Representative, and they don't have clean drinking water in Jackson, Mississippi. So is this why you ran? Because I know this is your first term. Why did you run?
Well, this specific issue was not the reason why I ran, but in general, the reason why I ran was to, help to improve the quality of life of the folks that's within my district. I represent West and South Jackson. A big portion of my district is in West and South Jackson, which is predominantly Black. And I've lived in that area basically all of my life. And I've seen, the issues that, Black and brown folks have had to grapple with. And so, I realized that systemic change is rooted in policy change. Yeah. And in order to create that policy change, you got to be in the game. You got to be in the arena where the policies are happening.
Yeah, you got to have that seat at the table. Zakiya Summers has got to leave us at 3:00 for 2 o'clock her time. So I want to get to what you guys have been doing. I know you've been doing some water drives, and so
Absolutely.
So what are you thinking? I mean, and the water drives are great, but is there light at the end of the tunnel, Zakiya? Because how many water drives can you do, girl?
Exactly. And, we are very grateful to have support coming in from all across the country. Even this conversation has been the result of some relationship building and the South Carolina family willing and ready to lend a hand and help us here in Jackson, Mississippi. But there have been water drives happening all across the city for a number of weeks. And unfortunately, we still have to continue to do that. So I'm going to be having another one in my district on tomorrow in conjunction with my brothers and sisters from Zeta Phi Beta and Phi Beta Sigma in Alabama, who are coming over to Mississippi to help us. But, it's not sustainable. These water drive-throughs are not sustainable. We have to make sure that our system is, corrected so that people can, once again, have clean access to water, the water that they need to live. And so, go ahead, Trey.
No, I was going to say, before I bring Deanna in, I want to bring her in a minute, because I really want to have some conversation, because I want to make sure I think you guys are dealing with the same types of things. So I want you all to not only converse here briefly, but to have a conversation later to see if you guys can help each other. Oh, this worked for me. This didn't work for me. But I want to ask you, what can we do in South Carolina to help you?
Well, I tell you, we had a conversation earlier this week with Miss Anita and the Life Cross Church representatives out of Columbus, South Carolina, Columbia, South Carolina, who are gearing up to, get some water down to us here in Jackson, Mississippi, which will continue to be a big help. And I think, being on platforms like this, just being able to share the story and being able to connect with folks like Deanna and others to see how we can share resources, and be able to connect, in a broader way, to say, as exactly what you said, this is what has helped us. Are you aware of these programs? Are you aware of these resources that you can take advantage of? Because that's what it's going to take. We have to do some across state advocacy, and across state partnership to really address these issues, because it's not just a Jackson issue. It's not just a Mississippi issue.
That's right.
It's an issue that's happening all across this country. Remember Flint?
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. I mean, Flint, Michigan was how many years ago? And there are probably cities and towns, I'm sitting here thinking now, Zakiya, that we don't even know about, just like I didn't know about it. I knew it was happening to Deanna in Denmark. I live in South Carolina. I met her and know her. But if I didn't know it was happening with you in Jackson, Mississippi, if Anita had not mentioned it to me, I would not know.
Mm-hmm.
But I think more of this is happening than we think.
Yes. And when we can build that kind of national pressure, it does help us in Mississippi, because it brings our legislative leadership, those who are in positional power, to bear to say, okay, you have to address this. Now it's time to respond to this in a positive way.
So
that's going to
help
folks.
Yeah. So what is happening when you go to the powers that be in Mississippi?
Yeah. So right now we have a couple of options on the table. We do have a House bill that's going through the process that we believe will get approved. Because what I didn't mention was that we had an issue with a contractor with Siemens that had installed some faulty water meters. And we were able to settle with that company, but of course it wasn't enough money to do what we needed to do.
Right.
As a result of that, people's bills were all over the place. We had people, owing $5,000 on a water bill, which is ridiculous.
Right. A water that you can't even use.
That's right. And I saw you mentioned something about in your area, they're offering some payment plans.
Yeah.
Well, for us, we have to get that, we have to get a legislative remedy in order to do payment plans within our municipality. So that bill is going through the process. We also have another bill that's a local and private bill that would allow the city to implement a 1% sales tax. It would need to go on the ballot, so the voters would have to support it in order for it to come to fruition. And, I've heard from constituents that are not necessarily excited about paying extra taxes. But we got to try to build some revenue in some, way or form. And then we're also hoping that the legislature will give us some bond money to help us with some of this, immediate need. And then, of course, we're looking at what the federal government is going to do through, the relief bills that have recently passed, to see if we can use some of that funding or leverage, some funding that way that will help us with our system. So that's what we're navigating through at this point.
But right now, you still need water. And in the midst of a pandemic where people already need other resources,
absolutely,
you are needing people to bring water or to make donations for water. So is there nothing that can happen right now that money can be allocated today, tomorrow, Monday to give you guys the water you need?
I wish it was that easy, but it never is.
Yeah. Because here's the thing, it's not like nobody doesn't know. There's got to be somebody. And again, I'm getting passionate about it, girl, because this is just crazy. This is the politics of life. Everybody knows y'all need water. And I'm going to bring Deanna in because it's happening right there in Denmark, South Carolina. Everybody knows you need water.
Everybody knows that.
Everybody knows you need water. Even people who can push the buttons and make the decisions and make the calls and have the money, whether it's money they were raised with, money they earned, or money they have access to.
Right. And Trey, and I'm sure Deanna can speak to this as, a candidate, and you as well. This just shows the importance of being civically engaged.
Yes.
I cannot discount how significant it is that we get registered to vote, that we do voter education, that we get out to vote, because these individuals determine whether or not we get the resources that we need for people to have access to things that we take for granted, like water.
Exactly.
It's so critical.
Yeah. And you make such a good point. You're right. Because, people will say, my vote doesn't count. Your vote absolutely counts more on a local level than on a national level, because these are the people, as you say, that are making the decisions that affect your everyday life.
That's exactly right. And a non-vote counts as well.
As a vote. Yeah.
It does.
It counts in an adverse way.
It does. You at the house eating potato chips, mad at the beauty salon about something going on. But if you're not doing anything but, as James Brown said, talking loud and saying nothing, you are contributing to the problem.
That's right.
Deanna, can you help Zakiya? I know you guys, listen, how long have you guys been dealing with this issue in Denmark?
Look, Trey, listening to State Representative Summers, I was like, we're not the only one. And I knew we weren't the only one.
Right.
What's happening in Denmark, what's happening in Jackson, what's happening in Flint, and what's happening all over America is part of a huge crisis that we have to take. We're dealing with the same thing. I mean, decades long failing infrastructure, decades long of improper maintenance, the allowing folks who are not licensed to work on the public work system. But then on top of that, for 10 years, they decided to dump a non-EPA approved pesticide into the entire public drinking water system without the public's knowledge or consent, and do it as a means to pass their sanitation reports. So they found a way to cheat, and they found a way to do things in an inhumane way at the cost of people's lives.
Yeah.
So it's just a matter now of finding out how we can come to some realistic solutions to be able to help the folks who are affected, to be able to empower the people and educate the people who aren't currently affected, but may potentially be affected, because everyone's body reacts differently to certain contaminants and toxins and poisons. Right. So just because you aren't affected today doesn't mean you're not going to be affected 5 years from now.
Absolutely.
So it's a huge problem that we must tack and put the public health first.
Yeah. Zakiya's got to go, but before she leaves, Deanna, can you offer her any advice? Is there anything that has worked for you that you can share with Zakiya?
The only way we're going to win is together. Merging, showing people that our even though our situations are uniquely different, they may have a different variations to the levels, but the way these elected officials and folks who are in charge of these state agencies that swore an oath to protect the public health and how they're managing and how they're dealing with things, there's really nothing more that we can do than what we're doing right now. Being vocal, speaking up, and being an advocate for these communities, because unlike your community is offering hardships. Here in our community, there is none. True story. Right now, my family does not have water because we have a $3,100 water bill. So there's no way that people can survive in communities like this when you're dealing with something that's bigger, part of the bigger problem. What can help? What has helped? Being vocal and keeping your communities mobilized. These water drives are exhausting, but they're necessary.
Yeah, they're necessary.
So just continue to keep doing the work, and let's merge and form a partnership so that we can amplify this to a greater level.
Yeah, I really want you guys to do that. And whatever I can do, I'm on board. And Zakiya, and like I said, we can talk, later. I know you've got to run to a meeting. Whatever else I can do as far as hooking you up with additional media, I will be glad to do, because you're right, Deanna. There is power in numbers. There's power in collaboration. And we have got to, because listen, this is happening mostly to Black and brown people.
Yeah. And if I could say this to you, Representative Summers, thank you for what you do, because here in South Carolina, we've got people who've been semi-vocal, but to have someone of your caliber, like I'm just a resident, a national activist, but there's power that comes behind a position.
Yes.
And you're in a position to be able to sound an alarm at a greater level. Like, how great would this have been if we were able to have my state representative on a call with us talking about these issues, and he could expound on the state level. So Jackson is very fortunate to have you. And anything that I can do here in South Carolina, I'll even travel out to Jackson so folks will know that it's not just happening to you guys. I'll be more than happy to do that. But the only way we're going to win this is together.
Yeah. Zakiya, what can we do for you right now?
I so appreciate that. I just want to say that, it's Jackson and Denmark now, but it could be your community tomorrow.
Yes.
I mean, we just never know, what we could be up against in the future. And so, I just ditto everything that you said. I want us to continue to, build our relationship. And, there may be some other areas where, we have resources here that we can also bring to the table to help you, up in South Carolina. So please, my social media information to all the viewers and listeners is on the screen.
Can you use donations? Can you use donations, Zakiya?
Absolutely, but not to me personally.
Okay.
But we are working with nonprofit organizations across the state. You can actually go to peoplesadvocacyinstitute.com.
Okay.
It's a conglomerate of several statewide organizations, and they're working to not just get water to families, but if you don't have water, you can't cook. So people need food. They're getting food to families. If you don't have water, you can't wash clothes. So we have an organization that's providing, laundry services to families. So please go to peoplesadvocacyinstitute.com if you would like to make a contribution.
peoplesadvocacyinstitute.com. Please, whatever you can donate would be so appreciated. As Zakiya said, you're not in Jackson, Mississippi today, but it could be. It's right there in Denmark, South Carolina. Been going on. Anita said she wasn't aware of Denmark's issues. We do have work to do here. But here's the thing. There's work to do everywhere.
Everywhere.
And again, if COVID taught us nothing else, it taught us that whatever happens in the world, it is amplified 100 times in Black and brown communities.
Yes.
That's right.
That's true.
We dying and people sneezing. You know what I'm saying? For the same thing. So please, People's Advocacy, what is it again? People's Advocacy Institute.com. Please contact them, make a donation as much as you can. And Zakiya, I echo Deanna, whatever I can do to help, I am on board. Let's connect next week sometime, ladies. Okay.
Thank you so much.
Oh, no, thank you. Go on to your meeting. Deanna, we'll come right back after this break, y'all. And we'll talk more to Deanna Millerberry about what's going on in Denmark and how we can help the folks right here in South Carolina. I'm Tre Tailor. You're watching Coping with COVID. We'll be right back.
Coping with COVID, updates on the pandemic and information to help you thrive and survive COVID-19. It's brought to you by the South Carolina Department of Health and Environmental Control. Visit scdheck.gov for an updated list of testing sites and important information on how to protect yourself, your family, and friends from the coronavirus. SCDHEC, healthy people, healthy communities. In it together and the South Carolina Diabetes Advisory Council, presenting Wellness Wednesday every Wednesday on Coping with COVID. The City of Columbia Office of Business Opportunities, helping to meet the needs of small, minority, and women-owned businesses in the City of Columbia. Log on to columbiasc.net/OBO. Agape Counseling and Training Services. Call 803-779-2777 for licensed professionals of counselors and social workers helping families, engaged and married couples, and individuals of all ages gain an understanding of all aspects of their lives. If you're having a challenge coping with COVID, contact Agape Counseling and Training Services at agapects.com. And Palmetto Media Connections, connecting media and communities together. Coping with COVID, brought to you by SCDHEC. In it together, the Diabetes Advisory Council, the City of Columbia Office of Business Opportunities, Agape Counseling and Training Center, and Palmetto Media Connections.
Coping with COVID with Tre Tailor.
Every cookie sold in the Girl Scout Cookie Program helps girls learn lifelong lessons in people skills, decision-making, and goal-setting. It's amazing how much you can learn from a cookie.
Coping with COVID celebrates Women's History Month. Zakiya Brown Duckett is one of two African-American women leading a Fortune 500 company. As CEO of Teachers Insurance and Annuity Association, the former CEO of Chase Consumer Banking has worked tirelessly to share information and resources to women, youth, and minorities about the importance of financial literacy. And she's served on committees and developed initiatives to make certain there is diversity in those entering the field. As TIAA's new CEO, Duckett will not only be the second Black woman currently leading a Fortune 500 firm, she's also just the fourth Black woman in history to serve as a Fortune 500 CEO. Zakiya Brown Duckett. Celebrating every woman. It's a Women's History Month celebration on Coping with COVID from Tailor Made Productions.
Right now, the COVID-19 vaccines are available to millions of Americans, and soon they will be available to everyone.
This vaccine means hope. It will protect you and those you love from this dangerous and deadly disease.
I want to go back to work and I want to be able to move around.
To visit with Michelle's mom, to hug her and see her on her birthday.
You know what I'm really looking forward to is going to opening day in Texas Ranger Stadium with a full stadium.
We've lost enough people and we've suffered enough damage.
In order to get rid of this pandemic, it's important for our fellow citizens to get vaccinated.
I'm getting vaccinated because we want this pandemic to end as soon as possible.
So we urge you to get vaccinated when it's available to you.
So roll up your sleeve and do your part.
This is our shot. Now it's up to you.
You're watching Coping with COVID, updates on the pandemic and information to help you thrive and survive COVID-19. It's brought to you by SCDHEC, In It Together, SC, and the South Carolina Diabetes Advisory Council. They actually sponsor Wellness Wednesday every Wednesday here on Coping with COVID. We're also brought to you by the City of Columbia Office of Business Opportunities, Agape Counseling and Training Centers, Palmetto Media Connections, also Javis Tax Service. They're celebrating 20 years of providing financial services to South Carolina. Also, the Comet, don't miss your shot. Catch the Comet for a free ride to get your vaccination. And Computers Unique. Daniel is in at Dutch Square Mall in Columbia, and he has reliable, professional, and affordable and honest, trustworthy sales and service for your computer or laptop. Contact Daniel at Computers Unique. He services all of my computers, and he would love to do the same for you. Now, there is vaccine information and all types of COVID information scrolling at the bottom of the screen throughout the show, so please check that out. You saw the president's PSA about getting your vaccination. And listen, whether you agree or don't disagree, whether you agree or disagree, wherever you are on that side, the information is there. And as a matter of fact, on Monday, I am moderating a panel about the COVID vaccine. Dr. Linda Bell, state's epidemiologist, and a couple of other people will be on that panel. There's the information there. And I just encourage you, if you have questions, at least get the right information. So many times we just go off half-cocked with wrong information, innuendos, rumors, things that are just not true. So at least find out the information you need. And here's going to be a public forum Monday that will provide you with information about the COVID vaccine. So I encourage you to join us on Monday. I'm Tre Tailor. Please continue to post and share this information out so we can get the message to the masses. We just heard from Jackson, Mississippi State Representative Zakiya Summers, who was telling us about the water crisis there. They don't have clean water to drink, and they need our help. But you know what? If you live in South Carolina, right down the street in Denmark, South Carolina, they're having the same problem and have been having it for a decade, Deanna. Y'all have had water that you couldn't drink over a decade. So how do you guys get your water?
Well, right now, residents either rely on going to the Healing Springs out in Blackville, South Carolina.
Yeah.
A lot of the families, they take a commute. It's a total of 20 miles altogether for a round trip, 10 miles there, 10 miles back, to have water to provide for their families. In addition to that, my organization, Denmark Citizens for Safe Water, along with many other organizations, we host water drives as often as we can afford to, based on the number of donations that we get. Folks tend to bring water out. Like a few weeks ago, we had a group from Columbia. It was several car clubs that came and delivered water to people's front door. Right. So that's how folks are getting their water. And for the folks who aren't fortunate enough to be able to take that drive or be able to, catch that distribution, they have to use the water that's coming out of their tap.
Wow. So people are actually having to drink the dirty water, the contaminated water.
Right. So just a little background on what's happened with the water for folks who may be just joining in and have never heard what happened. So right in Denmark, South Carolina, it's right down 321. It's in the middle of nowhere, but in the middle of everywhere. Home with dogwood trees. So I love where we live, but there was a secret. When I moved here, I had no idea the city was even facing water woes in the past. But for 10 years, the city of Denmark was instructed by DHEC to use a non-EPA approved pesticide called Halosan. And they dumped it in the public drinking water system for 10 years in unmeasured amounts, undocumented amounts, by an unlicensed public works worker. And they did it without the public's knowledge or consent. So folks were dealing with health crises, health issues. They were dealing with extreme water bills that they couldn't afford, having to go out and buy new clothes because their clothes were damaged in the machines. So it's a number of different things that was happening to this community at one time. But to say that that's been going on for 10 years, I mean, that's insane.
Yes, it is.
Who allows it? And it's because there's no oversight. It's the reason why they can get away with doing stuff like that for so long.
So you say there's no oversight. So is that from the local level, the state level? What?
From all levels, from the local to the federal government. Municipalities like Denmark are pretty much left to fend for themselves. We're on the bottom of the totem pole. We don't make enough money for number one, and our communities don't look like other communities with certain zip codes. So funding is not allocated or diverted properly into communities like ours, and there's no real true investments.
So have you guys, and listen, have you talked to your mayor? And I know you ran for mayor because you wanted to afford a change, because the mayor of Denmark has been there for what, 10 years? During this whole time?
This whole time. So he's been here as the mayor since 2009.
Wow.
So, it's been a while.
Yeah. And so you're not getting any help from the mayor. What is he saying? I mean, what is he saying and doing?
Nothing is wrong with the water. That as long as DHEC is saying nothing is wrong with the water, there's nothing wrong with the water. And he encourages residents to continue to drink this water. Let me tell you the problem, Trey. The problem is when we caught them, okay, because that's how we found out about it. We would have never known had we not started to advocate for these for the people and stand up and speak. And bringing in the right people. The experts we brought in were the exact same experts that uncovered the Flint, Michigan's water crisis. So it's Dr. Mark Edwards and his team of engineering professionals over at Virginia Tech University. So the problem is when you have a community where there's leaders and there's no oversight, like I just told you, what happens? People tend to think they can just get away with anything.
Oh, yeah.
And because the community has been forced to believe what those individuals say, they have no choice because there are no other options. We aren't Flint. We can't just go and flip a switch, and choose a different alternate water source. This is it. This is all we have.
Yeah.
And even though the city is no longer utilizing Halo Sand because we fought to get a cease and desist order.
Right.
But you got 10 years of residue.
Yes.
10 years of buildup in a system that's over 100 years old with no maintenance. And we don't have a water treatment plant.
Right. Daniel Lake says, is this just limited to Denmark? Daniel, are you asking, is this statewide, or are you asking what she just wants to know, is this limited to Denmark? Do you know that, Deanna? I mean, is this the pesticide, is it used widely?
No, it's not a common practice. So what happened was in 2007, it was brought to the state, DHEC's attention that Halo Sand, there was a test that they were willing to do to find out if Halo Sand could be used in public drinking water systems, because its purpose was to be used in pools and spas and small communities, like with a community pool, or something like that, or small one structure buildings. Never been intended for an entire public drinking water system. But the plan was to use this pesticide in a number of different communities throughout the state of South Carolina. Now, we don't know if there were any other cities. But what we do know is Denmark is the one that we have found.
Right.
But there's no way for us to know if any other city in South Carolina has been instructed to use this pesticide. But that is something that we're working on to find out.
Right. So, all right. So your mayor's saying nothing's wrong, even though experts say something is wrong.
Right.
And you've gone to, I'm sure you've gone to your state legislators.
Of course.
And what are they saying? Nothing's wrong.
Well, no, they're not saying that. See, folks know that there's a problem.
Right.
Okay. The thing is, we've got support from a lot of members of our state legislature. The problem comes into play is when it comes to Denmark being a municipality. A lot of folks want to stay out of municipal affairs.
Okay, I got you.
You know what I'm saying? So they tiptoe. And I'm to the point now where I'm just asking, folks who are in positions, folks who are state reps and senators to, step outside the box and help the folks out here. Right. I mean, if at the end of the day, the people would like to have a peace of mind, allow us to bring in the scientists, because we trust science.
Yeah.
We don't trust the agency that felt comfortable poisoning us underneath our nose without telling us. So, and the thing that I always think about is, what about those moms with new babies, middle of the night, getting up in the middle of the night to go and fix their babies a bottle and not knowing what's coming out of the top.
What's coming out of the water?
Who's paying attention to what's coming out of the faucet? We don't. We just
flip it and think it's all right. Yeah. We just assume that it's okay. So you, in response to this, started this organization.
Yes.
Denmark for clean water, right?
Denmark Citizens for Safe Water.
Denmark Citizens for Safe Water, which, again, I think someone said earlier that, they commend both of you for your advocacy and determination to improve the lives of others. Danielle Lake said that. And listen, it takes a lot to stand up and say, I see something's wrong. I'm going to do what I can do. Because here's the thing. We can all do what we can do. You know what I mean? We can't all do everything, but we can do what we can do. So I echo Danielle. And I've always admired you just saying, is something wrong? Let me see what I can do. And then, of course, you ran for mayor to push it even further. The numbers did not go in your favor, but I love that you're still fighting the good fight.
Oh, absolutely. There's no stopping because, number one, we took the incumbent to a runoff.
Yeah.
And the difference was 50 votes.
50 votes.
So with that being said, that says a lot about what we did.
It does.
Especially being a person like me who's not born and raised. And so I'm not originally from Denmark. I moved here 8 years ago. Yeah. So it took a lot to be able to gain the trust of this community, being an outsider. Yeah. So, plus we had the highest voter turnout in county history, not just once, but twice. We had more people come out in the runoff than we did the general.
Wow. And that's a big thing because people usually don't come out for a runoff. That's huge.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So it says a lot about the work that we did. And so it just tells us there's still much work to do. And we just cannot stop. So
what happens now, Deanna?
What happens now is we fight a different way.
Yeah.
So the efforts does not stop. We find different ways. And the one thing about true leaders is there's always contingency plans.
Yeah.
Or backup plans. So right now, that's what we're in the phase of doing now, is helping Denmark from a state level. And then being able to work towards rebuilding the corridor of shame, because for far too long, we've been stigmatized and labeled as the corridor of shame. And these communities are the ones that are facing the most tragedy, especially during COVID, and not having resources offered to people because, our demographic makeup is just not as big as our surrounding communities.
Right.
So we're left with scraps. So my focus now is rebuilding the corridor and having that corridor renamed and helping those communities thrive along the corridor.
And as far as you personally, are you going to run for something else?
I am.
You should.
I am.
You should.
So stay tuned.
Yeah. And let me know, as always, what I can do, because like Zakiya, you've got to have a seat at the table. I mean, what you're doing is amazing, but you got to have a seat at the table. You've got to be in those decision-making positions in order to make a decision. So, so what can we do to help? You're right up the street in Denmark.
Our folks here need water. We're still continually doing the water drives. It's exhausting. It's something that a resident or people in general should never have to embark upon, but it's something that we have to do because the state nor the local government is offering aid or assistance. So it's almost like we used to do back in the day. We help each other.
That's right.
Help spread the word. Share this video and tell folks what's happening right here, because there are other communities in South Carolina with environmental justice issues that are uniquely for those communities that also need help. We need to go after DHEC and make sure that they are being held accountable, because these are people's lives. And it no longer will we allow them to weaponize something that we need in order to live. Without water, we die. I mean, last year, I was working so hard, I forgot to eat and drink for several days and found myself in the hospital. And it was because I was not drinking. So imagine not having water. You need it to live. So why weaponize something that God basically placed here for us to utilize. Water is the new liquid gold. And,
Yes.
and no longer will we allow them to use it. And the people pay the hefty prices. So we just need all the support that we can. Share our story, join us in our fight, and be a part of everything that we're doing. And let's connect these dots.
Yes,
because it's not just Denmark.
So if people do want to make a donation, how can they do that, Deanna?
They can do so by going through the South Carolina Progressive Network. They are our fiscal sponsors.
Okay,
so,
South Carolina Progressive Network. Okay.
That's correct. They can mail a check to that location, and I can drop the information down
Please,
in the chat a little bit later on to make sure folks know how they can help. They can send a check. They can, if they want to do donations as far as bringing physical water, you could just reach out to me. My information, I believe we can have it on the screen. Just give me a call or shoot me an email or visit my website. It's currently being revamped. And we're going to do the best that we can to help the folks out here.
All right. You see the information on the screen. Deanna Millerberry needs your help. The citizens of Denmark need your help. Think about if this was your grandma or your sister, or your brother, or your cousin. Water is necessary. It's needed. Can we just commit to giving $20 a month? That's not bad. $5, $10, $15, $25 a week. Can you commit to that for water for somebody who needs it, your neighbor in South Carolina? Because you don't know if it could creep on down 321 and come over here to you.
Hey, Trey, I got one quick thing I want to tell you too.
Yes.
Another way that folks can help too is help us sound the alarm to bring back our experts, because the mayor prohibited our expert, Dr. Mark Edwards, from coming back, because each time he came, we found something worse. The last thing that we found was a potential illegal dumping site of raw sewage that's flowing into Little Sakahatchee River. It has already been tested. We already know what's on that ground, what's in that soil near the banks of the tributary. So when we shared that information with the mayor, he shut us down. So that is why we are still fighting. The people deserve to know the truth. We do not trust DHEC. We do not trust city officials because they were comfortable poisoning us for 10 years without telling us. So we trust the people that gave us the truth. Help us fight to bring back Dr. Mark Edwards so we can know exactly what's happening to our public water system.
Deanna Millerberry with Denmark, South Carolina. They need safe water, and you can help them. You see her information on the screen. Please do what you can do to help. And as Deanna said, please continue to post and share this message, because people need to hear what's going on, not only in Denmark, but right there in Jackson, Mississippi, as Zakiya said. Deanna, thank you so much for joining us. I appreciate it. I'm going to reach out to you this weekend because I've got some information I want to share with you. Okay. All right. Thank you, beautiful. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me again.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. I'm so glad the two of you got a chance to connect. That's what the show is all about. Thank you, beautiful.
Yes, thank you.
All right. So listen, if you have a story or initiative that could help someone cope with COVID, please go to the Tailor Made Productions page and inbox me. I would love to help feature your story right here on Coping with COVID. If you have a product or service that can help someone cope with COVID, please email copingwithtreitailor@gmail.com. The information is scrolling at the bottom of the screen. And we would love for you to be a proud sponsor, just like SCDHEC, the City of Columbia Office of Business Opportunities, In It Together SC, the South Carolina Diabetes Advisory Council, Javis Tax Service, celebrating 20 years of providing financial services to South Carolina, Agape Counseling and Training Center, Palmetto Media Connections, The Comet, and also Computers Unique in Dutch Square Mall. I have just started reading 100 Days to Believing Bigger. This is a journal that I've heard a lot of people, Rashonda Pratt and even Tamika Isaac Devine, say that they read. I ordered it and it's been sitting there in my office, and just something the Holy Spirit told me to open it up. And interesting enough, it's talking about trust, just like my Jesus calling was. So I want to start today by or end the show by reading from this. It says, God is more concerned with our trust than our talent, more committed to our character than our career, and more interested in obedience than sacrifice. Because of our desire to get what we want when we want it, We naturally tend to rush the process and attempt to put God on our timeline. We set our expectations high, create our own schedule, and start racing toward that finish line. Then, when our expectations aren't met, we feel frustrated because we haven't met our goals. But there is something God wants more than your speed, hard work, or mighty efforts. God wants your trust, total reliance upon spiritual timing. It's not easy, right? Instead, we want to orchestrate, we want to direct, we want to control, and we want answers. However, the truth is that we simply don't know what's best for us. We certainly don't have heaven's elevated view. And if we're acting in haste, we can get in the way of God's intended blessings for us. Trusting God is trusting his timing and believing that you can rely upon him, both the wait and the pursuit. God, I needed this today. God is never late. He is always on time. If I was in a Baptist church right now, I would sing On Time God. Thank y'all. That was good. This is Believing Bigger by 100 Days of Believing Bigger by Marshawn Evans Daniels. And I'm going to start reading from this also. But listen, I'm telling you, the Jesus Calling, it was talking about trust also. So this was a Holy Ghost moment. Anita says, thank you for covering and sharing these issues. Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it for your work. Listen, guys, thank you so much for joining us on Coping with COVID. Hey, next week, we're going to talk to Tamika Isaac Devine. She's going to update us on what's happening in the city of Columbia. And then Gretchen Barron is going to update us on what's happening in the county. Wellness Wednesday from In It Together SC and the South Carolina Diabetes Advisory Council. We're going to talk about kidney disease. And then next Friday, we're going to talk to Chandra Cleveland. She has got an amazing story. She works in law enforcement, helping our girls. And we're going to find out why she's doing that and where she's going from here on. That's next week on Coping with COVID. Until the next time, I wish you peace and abundant blessings. Please stay safe, be careful, and wear your mask. You still got to wear your mask over your nose and under your chin. See you later.
Coping with COVID, updates on the pandemic and information to help you thrive and survive COVID-19. It's brought to you by the South Carolina Department of Health and Environmental Control. Visit scdheck.gov for an updated list of testing sites and important information on how to protect yourself, your family, and friends from the coronavirus. SCDHEC, healthy people, healthy communities. In It Together and the South Carolina Diabetes Advisory Council, presenting Wellness Wednesday every Wednesday on Coping with COVID. The City of Columbia Office of Business Opportunities, helping to meet the needs of small, minority, and women-owned businesses in the City of Columbia. Log on to columbiasc.net/OBO. Agape Counseling and Training Services. Call 803-779-2777 for licensed professionals of counselors and social workers helping families, engaged and married couples, and individuals of all ages gain an understanding of all aspects of their lives. If you're having a challenge coping with COVID, contact Agape Counseling and Training Services at agapects.com. And Palmetto Media Connections, connecting media and communities together. Coping with COVID, brought to you by SCDHEC, In It Together, the Diabetes Advisory Council, the City of Columbia Office of Business Opportunities, Agape Counseling and Training Center, and Palmetto Media Connections.
Coping with COVID with Tre Tailor.